Hey guys, and welcome to a very tired episode of Let's Max Warframe, where today we're going to be celebrating the release of our brand new primes by checking out the fourth in the Cernos series, and that is the shiny new Cernos Prime. The Cernos Prime is an addition to the Cernos, Cernos and the Mutalisk Cernos family, so it's got to be pretty special to stand out amongst those three bows. Well, it comes in immediately at the top of the bows in damage per shot with 360. The majority, 324, comes in the form of impact, 18 as both puncture and slash. Combine that with a very good critical chance of 35% and a decent 200% critical damage multiplier, you have the recipe for a fantastic weapon on your hands. The status chance of just 10% really isn't worth modding for, however, so it's going to be crit with 90% elementals all the way really. However, these stats, while they look insane on paper, are actually pretty misleading, and that is down to the special feature of the Cernos Prime. And that is, instead of firing one single arrow like most bows, it fires in a similar fashion to the Artemis bow. It fires 3 arrows in a horizontal line. Now it's worth noting that, like shotguns, the base damage and status are split between each pellet, or arrow in this case, so each arrow is going to have 120 impact damage each. Now, I've done a little bit of testing with this mechanic. It doesn't seem to be affected by accuracy at all, so putting a max heavy caliber on here literally does nothing. Multi-shot naturally does affect us as well, so with just split chamber you'll be firing 5 or 6 arrows more often than not, and if you're lucky enough to get a ribbon for this, then an additional multi-shot from this will also count. In addition to that, if you use Avara's Navigator to try and control the arrows, you will only get one of them sadly, so the dreams of piloting around a row of arrows, it's not one that you're going to get to do, which is a bit of a shame. It does have a couple of fairly notable downsides. Firstly, you've got the very slow fire rate of 1 second for a full charge, and then you've also got a 1 second reload speed as well. Now, I've talked a bit about reload speed for bows before. People talk in their videos a lot about fire rate, because that affects the charge speed of the bow. But reload speed affects the speed that you take the next arrow out of the quiver and notch it onto the bow. So for example, the Cernos with its insane charge speed, it's more effective to go for reload than it is for going more fire rate. Whereas the Cernos Prime, you could actually go either way. So in terms of builds, how did I end up actually building it? Well, I eventually went with a full damage build. 4 former, so we've got 4 Vs and 2 dash polarities on there. Build I went for, after a ton of testing, Serration, split chamber, heavy caliber because it doesn't affect the accuracy, point strike, vital sense, your crit mods, vile acceleration, that's going to speed up the charge time. Then we've got 2 90% elementals. I decided against Argon Scope because while yes, if you red crit, it's going to do more damage than heavy caliber, it's very unreliable to even hit the head in the first place with this. You've got the fact that when you fire, you won't get a single arrow that will 100% land where the cursor is, let alone the fact that you've only got a small chance of a red crit that you've got as well. The same problem you've got really is with bladed rounds. Heavy caliber outperformed it consistently, which is why I went with the heavy caliber rather than anything else. This is just the way though that I've found to get the most out of the weapon. It's not the only way to build it, so mess about a bit, see what you can come up with. So, do I like the Cernos Prime? Well, I mean, it's different, I'll definitely give it that. And you know what? I quite like it. I've seen quite a lot of discussion with people ranging from this is the best thing ever to this is the worst thing since time began. But you know what? It's a side grade to the other more traditional bows. Traditional bows, the Dread, Paris Prime, even the original Cernos and the Ratka, they were designed to take down single targets with super high damage. Pinpoint accuracy, designed to hit the dude square in the face, taking down high priority targets quickly. But those bows suffer in one major area: room clearing. There is no way the Dread, for example, is going to be as effective at taking down a room of enemies as a fully automatic rifle like a Soma, for example. That's where the Cernos Prime comes in. Okay, yes, it's kind of annoying. It's kind of annoying not to be able to turn the line of arrows vertical rather than horizontal. But you know what? That's kind of a minor complaint, really. If you've got a load of enemies coming at you in a horizontal line, you can now deal with them more effectively with a bow than you could ever do before. Spreading out that fantastic damage over multiple targets, especially when you've got punch through. Yes, it's true that against a single target, arrows missed is damaged missed. But for example, against the Infested, where it's a constant charge of enemies, you very rarely miss any arrows whatsoever. And with that built-in multi-shot, The damage this thing puts out into a group of enemies is quite frankly insanely good. But you know what? This thing can do single target just as well as the other bows. You just need to be very, very close range. If you are close enough to the enemies, you will increase the amount of arrows that hit. So you do some frankly ridiculous damage. I didn't like the Cernos Prime that much while I was leveling, I'll be honest. I was stuck in the mode trying to compare it to the other bows, and it seems like an obvious comparison to make. I mean, it is a bow after all, so comparing it to the Dread, comparing it to the Paris Prime and the Cernos seems to make sense. However, it's there to do a completely different job from the Ratka version, and you know what? It does it pretty bloody well. I love mechanically interesting weapons, and that built-in multi-shot actually got me very interested in what crazy things we might see on upcoming weapons. Honestly, I don't think it's going to replace my Dread or my Ratka Cernos for when I want to play with bows, but I can see people doing some very effective things with it. So what do you feel about the weapon? Have you managed to get your hands on it yet? I want to give a huge giant shout out to Quiet Shy, to Genomega for their huge help getting hold of some of the Prime stuff last night. Thank you very much for that. It really, really helped me get forward and actually get these videos out to you guys today. So it's time for me to actually go and get some sleep now. I hope you enjoyed this video. Videos in the other two are going to come very, very soon. As always, feel free to smash that like button and to sub if you like my content. And I shall see you in the next video after a bit of sleep. Good night, guys.